What I'm hoping to do is introduce a new area of cybersecurity to you, and for most of the builders and investors here, well, the builders, think about you are training your models, you're running inference, and a set of questions to ask your Neo Cloud or your GPU cloud data center. Some specific questions. There's a kind of a whole new threat area that exists with the advent of the GPU cloud. We'll talk a little bit about that. What Eclypsium does is looks at risks and vulnerabilities below the operating system. So we're basically hardware supply chain security. And in particular, the GPU clouds are a particular interesting target. So just this year, there's been a lot of testimony going on about whether AI infrastructure should be considered critical infrastructure. So I'd love a show of hands in the room who believes, I mean, clearly we're in a international arms race, right, with AI dominance, for sure. We're in an international arms race. And so the question is AI or should AI infrastructure be considered critical infrastructure? I'd like to raise the hands. Yeah, I think clearly it should be. There's some protections that come along with that, and so I think we're headed that direction. It would be good if that actually gets done. If you talk, basically, this is CoreWeave. It's a race to the top. We're racing to build the backbone of tomorrow's global economy. The investment and the innovation that's going on makes this a brand new, because of the international arms race aspect of it, makes it a new threat surface. So what makes an AI data center a great target right now? So we're going to cover 4 things today. So there's more risk when you're giving a bare metal system over to an adversary or anybody, right? You need deeper, so we'll talk about that. Network exploitation, supply chain complexity, and then clearly you're dealing with pretty sophisticated attackers in this case. So all these things wrap together to make this one of the most important new attack surfaces that's going on in the cybersecurity arena. A little bit of the anatomy of these NVIDIA servers that everybody's using. There's a bunch of components on there so that you may not be aware of, and each of those components has software and vulnerabilities just like anything else in the world. And most people don't know, inside of most servers, almost all servers, and probably inside a lot of the robots you're building, there's BMCs, baseboard management controllers. You have a little Linux computer running inside your computer. And that has vulnerabilities, Linux system vulnerabilities. We're talking about robotics, we're talking about edge systems. The more we push out into those devices, the more compute you need on those devices locally, the more those will be just Linux versions, and they have all the standard Linux vulnerabilities in them. And from our look into IoT devices, they're riddled with vulnerabilities. So thinking about how we're going to secure the hardware is important. And because it's such a high target, each of these, the field DPU, the smart NICs that are on there, each of them has vulnerabilities, and we need to be concerned about the integrity of each of those components. And so understanding the supply chain, when you get, when one of the BMC suppliers finds vulnerability, they have to issue a patch, and then that has to go to NVIDIA, and then NVIDIA has to issue a patch. And so it's the cycle of the supply chain to get things fixed is also very long. So one of the things that's happening in the industry, in the cybersecurity industry, is we can give you a hardware bill of materials, so you understand what is at least what you have and what vulnerabilities are there, and so you're aware of that. The good thing is that if you took the BMC in particular, NVIDIA, they started some research back actually in 2019, I believe, where they found 18 different vulnerabilities, and they did 9 proof of concept exploits of those vulnerabilities. So they're clearly aware of it. Eclypsium, we have a research department. We've been watching it for many years, and in 2025 was the first time that a BMC vulnerability that we've been working on since 2018 showed up on the known exploited vulnerabilities list. So these are being exploited in the wild out there. This is not theoretical stuff anymore. Cloudborne was an example of a real-world bare metal attack, and basically what was happening was they weren't sanitizing these systems between people using them, and what the attackers really love, this kind of below the surface thing. The persistence is what the attackers are after. What's interesting about the AI infrastructure world is all the investment is in the security of the AI models. Open source foundation models, closed source foundation models, lots of things looking for prompt injection, lots of things trying to work on the browser, all good stuff. But there is not as much being paid attention to the security of the actual AI infrastructure. When you think about the security of these systems, I train on a set of data, and I can verify that data was or was not altered, right? The integrity of that data. The output of the model is indeterministic, and so I can't really say, was this model polluted or not? I don't know. So I have to fall back. At least I can verify that the hardware that model was trained on and is running inference, that I trust that hardware. And so this whole security of the AI infrastructure is an emerging area that especially these cloud providers, the neo-cloud providers and the GPU cloud providers, that's all they're responsible for, right? So it's different than AWS and those that have the shared responsibility model. There's quite a bit they're responsible for. When you're handing out bare metal, that bare metal is all they care about. And so I've got a set of questions at the very end here that you should ask your provider. So we've got a few customers in this space, and really what they're doing is, if you can think about this, not only is there the threat to this hardware, but because of the complexity of the environment, what are they doing? They're renting out this hardware for 3 or 4 weeks to customer A, and they've got deep level access to that hardware, and then they take it back and rent that out to customer B, and take that back and rent that out to customer C. And so how quickly they can sanitize, set that system back to a known good state is really important to them. So that's what we're doing for most of our customers, and that creates trust for that. So it's funny, it's not that many of the neo clouds or GPU clouds, however you want to refer to it, that are differentiating on security, but they need to be, right? Right now it's just they have access to these boxes, but if something goes bad, then that reputational damage is going to kill them. With lots of our other customers, we've kind of typically have a 3-step process. First, make sure the new systems you're receiving are good as they come in the door and don't have any back doors or things going on with them. Then obviously while they're in operation doing it, and an interesting one around decommissioning servers, especially what happened in this GPU space is as you need the latest and greatest, the life cycle is going to be lower. But we have some large banks that are actually, because they were so concerned about their data getting out, they were shredding all their servers at the end of life, and just to not let the data get out. And so we're allowing them to sanitize those servers, put it back onto the gray market, and actually do something with that, and also obviously a positive environmental impact. All right, so I'm going to close with a set of questions. So if you're out there training your models and you're looking for one of these GPU cloud providers to provide you compute, can your GPUs prove their integrity? Is your network infrastructure monitored at the firmware level? Think about the recent F5 breach, right? Just a couple weeks ago. It is now the #1 fastest growing exploit of these network edge devices as the #1 entry into these breaches. So what's going on with your network infrastructure? Are you sure recycled or shared hardware is free of prior compromise? So again, if I can give it to customer A, make sure it's clean for customer B. And lastly, how do you ensure your GPUs are untampered between bare metal customers? So this is, make sure you get those answers from your provider, because you want to make sure you are training your models on trusted hardware.